What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this one, I'm going to be going over a really amazing electric slider. This right here is the ZEAPON Micro 2 E600 slider. This is an electronic slider, and I'm telling you right now, it is so much bang for the buck. So let's go ahead and jump more in depth into what this device can actually do. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about this slider is its compact size. As you can see, it's very, very short, but that doesn't at all limit you on its sliding length. You actually get double the length of what you see here, and this works exactly like this. Now, its compact length is literally only 51 centimeters, so it makes it really easy to throw this in a bag and take it on the go. So on the top, you can see it just has your regular tripod mount. I usually will just add my ball head to this. Gives me a lot more freedom to kind of pick any sort of angle. And then right below that, you can see that it is a belt-driven system. This, in my opinion, is one of the best out there because it really does help dampen your motions and keep them extremely smooth through and through the entire pool. Now on the bottom, you can see we have carbon rails, which helps alleviate some of the weight that you find in this. Keep in mind, that is one of the only downsides, in my opinion, to this slider is its weight, but given its payload, which is an enormous 8 kilograms, it kind of makes sense. You have to have something strong and rigid to keep up with that payload, and I think they did a really good job kind of being able to create or add carbon to certain areas where they could have sacrificed some weight. So they did think about that, but unfortunately, just given the fact that it can handle such a large payload, it has to have a very strong body. But on the bottom, you will see there is actually a built-in quick release plate. This is fantastic, especially when you just are on the go, need to clip it onto a tripod really quickly. No issues there. And as you can see, there are 3 mounting points as well from the bottom. So you really do have all the possible mounting points that you could need right here in the center of the slider. Now, right outside those carbon rails, you do have some feet that swing out just like this. And these are so sturdy. And right here is actually a really cool feature. So on each leg, you have these little wheels that you can actually use. Here, for example, let's go ahead and kind of set them up straight, flip it over, and you can literally slide it back and forth. There is one thing though that I wish they did include, which maybe they will change this in a future rendition, is the wheels are actually made out of a hard plastic. If you wanted kind of more of a smoother roll, especially on a surface that may not be completely level or smooth, I think something like a polyurethane, something like they use for skateboarding wheels, so something a little bit softer, I think would work really well for this type of application. But let's go ahead and continue. Let me show you what else we got on these wheels themselves, or rather on the other side, you have these feet that you can go ahead and pull out just like this. And they have just a little rubber nipple on the outside, and I think that's really all you need for this type of use. One thing though that I wish they did include, which hopefully they could later on, is I wish there were steps to the arms themselves so that you can actually pull them out and it's absolutely symmetrical. Does that kind of make sense? So like, for example, there's no click. This just swings freely open and closed, whereas I feel like if they had some sort of locking mechanism, it would make it really easy. Because when I was out shooting, one thing that I noticed is when the arms are out and it's actually not on a flat surface, along with the payload of a camera, you may get some sort of shifting because the weight is actually moving these arms back and forth and shifting it a little bit. Now, I think that's a simple upgrade that they can do, so hopefully that is something we will see in a future edition. But let's go ahead and jump to the motor, and I'll kind of show you some issues that I had with that. On my left, we have the motor for the slider, and this is actually really cool. This is a separate module, so if you are already a current owner of this slider, you can purchase this separately and make it into an electric slider. Now, that's a really cool bit. But as we jump into this, you're going to see that they packed quite a lot of features directly into the motor itself. So one of them is going to be, to turn it on, you could simply hold this power button and it's going to turn on. Now if you short hold or short press it, you can see that it is actually changing our motor speed. And with the two buttons up top, you can go ahead and move the slider. Now, one of the really cool things that they integrated into these two buttons and that one power button is the fact that you can actually set waypoints using these buttons. Now, for example, let's say I want to pick point A. I can go ahead and go to point A right there. I can double click on the power button just like that. It's going to beep, and that's going to tell me that it has selected point A, or point 1 in this case. And now with the button selector up top, I can pick my point B like that, and we're going to do the same thing. Double click the power button. We're going to hear a beep, and all we need to do now is click it again, and it'll go to waypoint A. And if we do the same thing again, it'll go to point B. I think this is really, really dope, but one thing that I hope they can incorporate, maybe even in a firmware update, would be an option to have this loop. So what I mean by that is I can go ahead and maybe tap this maybe 3 times instead of twice to go from one point to the other. And I can hit it 3 times and it'll just have it loop. So this is something that is extremely useful if, for instance, I am doing an interview and the interview is going to be running quite long. I can just have this literally bounce and loop back and forth, creating the footage that I need, so I don't have to actually manually be there clicking the button from point A to point B. Now, this is an option in their app, which is a very amazing, intuitive app. We'll get to that in a second, but I think it would be really cool to be able to unlock this feature without the app in case for some reason, I mean, maybe your phone battery died or you're not able to download an update for it or anything of those, like any scenarios, like things just come up on set. I think it'd be very beneficial to, in worst case scenario, be able to enable all those types of settings and features directly on the motor. And I think it could be as simple as just adding a triple press to that power button to have it loop between those 2 points you guys select. Now, another really cool feature to this product is the fact that it is powered by the Sony NP batteries. Now, chances are you already have these in your bag, which just makes it all the more better. But believe it or not, you probably wouldn't even need more than one for a day. I was able to use this slider on one of the small NP batteries for about 4 hours before needing to charge it up. So with that said, I mean, keep that in mind. You could purchase some bigger ones to use on this, but this thing lasts forever, especially under a heavy payload. Right above the power button, we have this rubber cover, and if you open it up, on one side you can see there is a USB-C port. This is really awesome because it actually allows you to charge your battery on the go and even run it from that battery or separate battery pack that you may have connected via USB-C. Now, the other port is going to be basically for your time lapses. You can set this on the mobile app that ZEAPON has, and once you hook up that to this motor and the camera itself, it'll help you in creating some really dope time lapses. Unfortunately, this isn't something that I have tested just because right now that isn't part of my workflow, but there is a time where I'm going to take this out and definitely get to play with that. Here in Atlanta, there's some amazing cityscapes that I have just in my head of some really cool time lapses that I could capture, and I'll definitely be taking this out and testing it. But for now, I don't really have too much experience, so I can't give you my input on that. Now, I didn't actually have many issues with this at all. It was more of user error. For example, on the bottom, as you can see, there are some supports, kind of like an adjustable support. So this is something that I highly recommend you adjust, and this will help keep your slider stabilized through its entire slide. One thing that I didn't do when I first got this is I didn't properly set this, so it would get to a point where it would kind of offset itself, and that would make the motor just go crazy. As you can see here, here's a clip. If you look at it quite closely, you can see there's a lot of shake with the slider itself, but once I adjusted that and tightened everything else down, I had no issues with this whatsoever. Now let's jump into the app. As you can see on its front page, it is extremely well designed and very easy to navigate. One of the really cool things is you are able to select up to 5 waypoints on the slider. Now, another really cool thing is in between those waypoints, you can select its speed. So if you wanted it to ramp up, that is very simple. You just slide your finger up, and as you can see, it'll ramp up the speed up until that waypoint, and vice versa. You can drag it down and it'll slow down as it reaches that waypoint. This is something you could do in between all of them, which is really dope. Now, if you select a waypoint that you want to change or actually just delete, you can just hold down on it, and you can see it gives us an option to delete it. Go ahead and delete it and you're good to go. Now, remember when I was talking about adding that looping feature onto the motor module itself? Well, they do allow you to do that in the app, and it's kind of like this repeat symbol that you might see on like a music player. You just hit that and it'll actually loop through all your waypoints. Another thing that I noticed in the app that you can see that is kind of grayed out is they have the option for tilt, follow focus, etc. So I actually reached out to ZEAPON about this because I was curious if maybe they were planning on coming out with a module that'll allow you to kind of pan and tilt along with sliding just like this. And they said that they are working on something. I have no idea when it'll come out, but that's super exciting because at the price point that this is, being able to add something like that would be an absolute game changer, because then you'd have full control over 360 degrees essentially. It would be an amazing feature to add to a package like this. Well guys, that is going to wrap up this review of the ZEAPON Micro 2 E600 slider. Overall, I think it is an amazing slider for your money in comparison to a lot of its competitors that are honestly 2 to 3 times the price of this. You cannot go wrong, especially if they come out with that module that will allow you to kind of follow focus, pan and tilt, and just have full range and full control over all the angles that you could possibly want. It would be an absolute game changer, and I think would honestly beat anything else in the market at its price point. Well, I hope you guys found this insightful, learned a couple of things that maybe you might not have known about this if you are considering purchasing it. If there is a question you have that maybe I didn't cover in this video, feel free to leave it down in a comment below and I will go ahead and try my best to answer it. With that said, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. It really does help the channel continue to grow, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.